Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Matt Fryer Golf Podcast. We have myself and we have Tom Fearon joining us today. We're back in sunny England, and for those watching, you'll notice that the studio's changed ever so slightly. I got that sort of autumnal feel, and I was like, right, I've got to move stuff. It was a bit like a house clearing or a spring clean. So, hope you like being in this new place.
That day when you go home and the couch is in a different place, TV's on a different wall.
Yeah, it felt like that basically. But yeah, off
Quite
we go.
like it.
So, running order for us today, Thomas. I like the structure that we're trying to develop here. We've got a little bit of chat of what happened last week, where we were, what we were up to. We're then going to talk a short game lesson, why you can't chip, pitch, putt, bunker play. We've then got a new segment, Tom. Sadly, for the moment, overrated, underrated has been retired.
We need ideas from people, don't we?
Yeah.
Our little brains are running out of overrated, underrated.
Exactly, and we've replaced it with Would You Rather, a tried and tested formula, some might say.
Never heard of it.
In the usual social space. So we've got some good Would You Rathers, and then we've got some listeners' questions. Again, as always, do make sure you are following us on the socials. We'll put the post out, and we want you to get involved in the episodes. We want you to, hopefully learn something from us each week. We're trying to do a sort of educational, a little bit of entertainment as we go through, but also like a topic that we're going to try and help golfers as we're going through. So this week we are on short game, but the socials will always ask you, something that you're struggling on related to the topic. So make sure you're following them and getting involved. But St Andrews last week, Tom, did you enjoy it?
How good is it? It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think you could tell just by us sitting there doing the podcast how much of a buzz we get being up there. But yeah, I did enjoy it. The videos were great. Well, I'm calling it the main video. I know there were 3 or 4 main videos, but I was only there for one big one.
Yeah.
I didn't come until Wednesday night. Really good video. I think that'll be nice and entertaining. Getting some viewers involved.
Yeah,
which is good.
So the Dukes that we're associated with, which is the Old Course Hotel, own the Dukes Golf Course. For me, it's gone from strength to strength. When I first started working with them about 2 years ago, the course is just so much better from when it was at the start to where it is now. But then, do you know what always surprises me about Scotland as well? Everybody is so welcoming and so enthusiastic and so keen to get involved. We did a big video with 8 members from the Dukes, and they all got involved. They really sort of took to what we were doing. They were good on camera, a little bit sheepish at the start, which is to be expected, because getting a camera shoved in your face for the first time is pretty hard whilst you're trying to play golf. But it's just amazing that everything we've done a couple of videos with them this year, and we've said that we want to try and do more with like your average everyday golfer moving forwards with the membership of the Dukes into next year, because it was really good fun and I enjoyed it. Yeah,
and speaking to the guys in the pro shop, there was a list of people who didn't make it onto that video.
Yeah.
So many people were interested and wanted to be involved.
Sorry, it wasn't our fault. That was Lee.
We didn't
if you've got any qualms, go and see Lee at the Dukes. But yeah, it was really good fun. I am looking forward to that video. I think it might be about an hour and a half long. There was some coaching element to it. There was some playing element to it. It was really good.
And I really hope that through the video, through the edit, you can sort of feel the tension, because like you say, people were nervous. They definitely relaxed a lot more as they moved through the golf course and got to the later holes. But there were a lot of that first tee was tense. The silence while people were taking tee shots.
Like being at a major,
yeah,
isn't it?
Like a tour event.
Yeah.
But I think nobody realised that they could talk, it's fine, just be more natural on camera, and they really eased into it as they went through the round. It was great.
Yeah, defo. And even as you go throughout the town as well, we met some great guys from, was it Memphis or?
No.
It was Massachusetts?
No, Massachusetts too far north. Just not far. No, I'm going to get it wrong.
From America.
Yeah.
We met some people from America. It began with an M, though.
Quite southern.
Yeah. Great. Invited us over for the member guest. I didn't realise how big member guests were.
Huge.
Over in America. I thought like invitation day over here in England was like if you go to some clubs, they're done quite well. Maybe not the biggest day in the golf club sort of calendar, but over in America, it seems like it's a serious event, and we've been invited out to one that we might actually look into doing. It was a full week bonanza of what was going on, but
it's huge. The prizes they do over there, the time I spent over there, whether it was in Florida or up in Cleveland or wherever. Like you say, the member guest, there were 3-day events a lot of the time. You're playing 9-hole matches, swapping over. The prizes are ridiculous.
It was $1,000 to enter, wasn't it? They said we're going to cover your entry fees. You get over there, we're going to sort it. They'd already lined myself, Tom, Joe, the cameraman, up for partners and things like that. It was quite funny, really. But the whole town, the whole experience. I mean, you just can't go up there, regardless of where you're playing golf. I think it doesn't have to be you're playing the Old Course, Kings Barnes and Carnoustie. You don't have to go and play the Dunhill Rota. You could go and play a few lesser known courses, but everybody has just got that common ground that they're there. They love golf. They're there to enjoy themselves and enjoy the game, have some good food, drink, socialise afterwards, and you just can't not have a good time.
No, the hospitality is so good as well. I don't think I've ever been anywhere where we can go back 6 months later and the bar staff are the same, or the restaurant staff, and they almost remember you chat to them, and it's an unbelievable place. And I think what you've just said there, because you walk into a bar in St Andrews and everybody kind of has that common ground, you've got something to talk about. Whether it's golf, even the students a lot of the time
golfers
talk about the golf course, the golfers, or they went to St Andrews because they're a golfer. We were chatting to a guy, weren't we, from 2 sort of second-year students, one from Dublin, one from somewhere again in America, and the different conversation you have with them is just insane. Everyone's experience of the place is
+3 or +4 handicap.
+3, I think it was.
Right, baller. But it was great. Some good videos filmed, and good fun had. We've also got this week out on the main channel, as this has gone out today. We have a video coming out later on today that is, I think, one of the UK's best kept secrets when it comes to golf courses. Super cheap. I think it was £30 a round. It was incredible. It could have been like one of my favourite places I've filmed this year. I won't spoil what it is, but go and watch the main channel. It'll be out at 7 p.m. Really, really good. And then yesterday we had my new clubs, my Mizuno fitting, the tour fitting that we went through with Owl. It's quite a good experience, that, to go through like a normal fitting and then go out on the course, because I think what I do in a studio, you can stand there and smack it as hard as you want. But when I get out onto the golf course, especially with driver, I get a little bit steery. So it was quite good to go and see what was happening out on course and take it from one scenario to another. So go and check that out as well. But Tom, the main piece,
people are here,
the main meal. Why? And do you know why this came around? When we did the video at the Dukes, we had 8 amateurs. I think we had one was the lowest handicap was 3.
Yeah, and some good handicaps, by the way. 3s, 5s, 8s. Yeah, really good golfers.
And there was a couple of higher handicappers in there, but they were obviously, we played a Texas Scramble in this video, so there was the same scenario for every golfer bar the tee shot. And when we got in and around the greens, especially from 100 yards in, things just kept cropping up. And as we were filming this, I was thinking, why is this happening? Why do we keep seeing all these scenarios play out and on certain things? And it's something, as both as coaches, that we'll see time and time again. Now, I know that distance is a huge thing. All the stats say that if you are able to hit it longer and keep it in play, not knocking it out of bounds into hazards and everything, the game becomes easier. There's no question in that. Yeah. But I still believe that if I wanted to go and lower my handicap and I had a month, I would just dedicate my time to, probably 70% from 100 yards in and 30% on trying to get a little bit more distance. Because, as we say, with the group we had up at the Dukes and the countless lessons that we give and people that we see, it's just the same things over and over again. Yeah. So we're going to go through some short game stuff. We've been fortunate that we've been had some data provided from the guys at ShotScope. All the ShotScope users, if you're wearing, the tagging system, it will track what you're doing. If you use the app correctly, can be a really good tool, and it'll actually show you what's happening out on the course. So I've collated some stats here, and we've done this from the perspective of a 20 handicapper, which is middle of the road. Yep. We have put some zero handicap stats in as well to give us a little bit of an idea of, the best player at your club, what you will see them doing versus this sort of average golfer.
Just on average handicap, we put a couple of clips out a few weeks ago, and I think people in comments were sort of saying, well, you could maybe be a little bit more kind to the average golfer, or say nicer things than the average golfer. Just to let everyone know, the average golfer is 22.5 handicap. We seem to have people who were sort of playing off 12 and 13 handicap being a little bit offended, as if we were calling their game out. But they're good golfers. You're off 12, you're much better than average. So when we are talking average golfer, we're not calling you average. We're talking about what the average median handicap is, which at the minute is sitting in the 22 region.
Yeah.
So everything we're talking, we put it at 20, but we are talking that is generally the average golfer. If you're better than that, then well done.
Yeah.
If you're worse than that, then this will help.
But even actually, we've got some stats. And one thing I would say to everyone, if you go over onto ShotScope's website, there's a few booklets that you can download that contain these sort of stuff. I'll link some in the description below. And even if you are a 12 handicapper, you'll see the disparity from 20 to 15 to 10 to whatever it may be, and sometimes they're not too far apart, as we saw when we were doing this video. So hit us with it, Tom. Where are we going to start? How are we going to help the folks listening at home or watching? How are we going to help them improve their short games?
Well, we're going to work from the hole and move away. So we're going to start with some short putts first.
Okay.
So we're starting close.
Yeah.
We're moving backwards. So putting short. Stats-wise, okay, what we've got on putting short is from 3 to 6 feet, your 20 handicap golfer will make 55% of their putts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and from 0 to 3 feet, your 20 handicapper, 90% of the putts.
Yeah.
Okay. How can we improve that? Where can the 20 handicapper get a little bit better? Make a few more of those. What mistakes do you commonly see?
Yeah, and then just to add with that, with the zero handicapper, we're seeing that from 3 to 6 feet, 76%, so 21% more.
Big jump.
That's a lot of strokes. And then 98% from 0 to 3 feet will be held. Now, for me, I think that like this, if I was, let's say, and this is one of the things that we focused on when we're doing this video at the Dukes, if I was to say, right, tomorrow we're going to go out with a golfer who I've never met, they're off 20 handicap, and I've got one thing that I can improve, I get 30 minutes with them to say, right, you shoot, let's call it 95 every round. Your lowest score is 95. How are we going to get that score below 95? How are we going to shoot 94 or 90, let's say? This would be the one place I would go straight to.
You're going within 6 feet. I
would go within 6 feet and say, right, because I think we can all, we'll all do it our sames, and if we're looking at the stats, this is where it shows you, an objective view instead of one where we go, I'm okay, and we've talked about this on podcasts in the past. 55% from 3 to 6 foot. It's not the biggest distance. The length of the table that we're sat at now is about 4 feet.
Just to caveat that as well, and make that even worse of a scenario. If you then knock that 3 feet past because your distance control is not great, you've got the same 55% chance next time as well.
Exactly. So, you got 3 to 6 feet. I'm not going to ask you to go and add 20 yards onto the drive, but just to get the ball in the hole from 6 feet, we could do things. And there's two things that I think, and that we see all the time, golfers doing when they're missing these putts. Number one, they're allowing for too much break. Obviously, if we're watching golf on the PGA Tour and we're watching golf worldwide and some of the tournament courses that you would see, some of the greens are quite sloping. And even this, I did a video with, I think it was Marco Penge last year, and I consider myself, a good putter, and would sometimes, I was a little bit shaky over, I would say, sort of 4 to 7 feet or 4 to 6 feet, a little bit more. 4 and in, I was like, yeah, I'm not really missing there. But I would just start to miss a few. And he said to me, well, why do you ever, like, on a general putt, if you're playing round England, why are you leaving the hole if you're not on a severely slopey green? And I was like, oh, well, in case of the break. It's like, well, if you hit it just a little bit firmer and stay inside the hole, chances are, if you've got a good stroke, it's going to go in.
Yeah.
You're not giving too much away. And I think that's, the first thing that I see with amateurs. They'll get a putt and they're almost looking for too much information to go on instead of going, right, let's call it 4 foot. What do you see here? Oh, I reckon a ball, 2 balls out the right. And there was a few when we were out playing, I was thinking, no. Again, don't leave the hole. So, at most we're on the right edge here, but a little bit of pace and we'll get it in. So I think that's one aspect. If you are generally, I'm talking for the UK player here, America might be a little bit different when we're adding grain into the situation, when we're adding slope into the situation. But if you've got a generally flat putt and it is from that 0 to 6 feet, you don't need to, be going 1-2 balls outside.
No.
You can generally aim a little bit more inside that hole. Don't give the hole away is what you would probably being heard quite a lot, which means like don't let the starting line of your golf ball be outside the parameters of the hole.
Yeah, no, fully agree. You've got to have quite a severe. You'll definitely feel and see the slope if you're needing to aim outside the hole. If you're guessing, kind of thinking, is it moving? Is it not moving? Then it's definitely not moving enough.
Yeah, over like
for
trying
you to
find
aim
something
outside the hole. So if you are questioning, I can't tell if there is a break in this, then just keep it inside the hole. And if you feel you need to be a bit more firm, don't smash it 3 foot past. But if you feel you need to be a bit more committed, then do that as well.
Yeah, I think from there, then this sort of marries up nicely to that is starting the ball online. So overrated, and this is like I think it was last week or is it the week before we talked about my favourite drill with one of the questions.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, 2 tee pegs that the putter can pass through, and then about 2 feet out, a foot out, I have another 2 tee pegs. You can buy like things from Vizio, who's by Phil Kenyon, who's done really good stuff. Like the gates look like a little bridge that the ball's got to go under or through as you put in. But when we were at the Dukes, when I've taken other amateurs, other golfers out onto the golf course and said, okay, what do you see in this 4-footer? Oh, it's dead straight. Brilliant. Right, let's go with that. Firstly, the lining up of the ball, there's not enough time and care taken into that, and I think that comes from I'm taking too long. But if you practice that skill of actually, if you've got a line on the golf ball and you do this, and you get behind and you're sort of sat behind the golf ball looking directly at the hole and you're picking the line, and if you're watching us on YouTube you'll see us how we're doing this. But I think a lot of people stand side on and just sort of like,
I was just thinking that.
As they're sort of setting up, they wiggle the golf ball.
Or the line on the ball is kind of sitting over to the side or the other way.
And it just doesn't, like, straight away, you're not, if you can read the putt fantastically, but if you can't get that start line matching that putt, that read and the pace that you want to hit it on, we've got no hope.
And the simplest way of doing this is like you say, make sure you're standing looking down. I'm talking on the golf course, but make sure you're looking down the line of the golf ball, so you're directly behind it, not side on. And then just hold your putter up in front of you. You'll see countless players just holding the putter up in front of them, close one eye, and the line of the shaft looks through the line of the ball and hopefully meets if it's a straight putt, meets the hole or meets your intended start line. And that's a foolproof way of making sure the line's aim in the right direction.
Is it just cut down there and you go, right, okay, perfect? Because again, when we filmed, there was so many putts that I sort of stood behind as one of the team captains, and you looked and went, if they don't do something to manipulate this stroke, that putt's missing. Because the way the ball was lined up and the way the alignment aid on the putter married up just didn't match. And then all of a sudden hit it, it broke more, and you're like, it didn't. You actually hit a really good putt there because that's where you're aiming. Yeah. So I think, like I said a minute ago, if I had that 30 minutes to spend with anyone, and it might seem a little bit boring, I always used to love putting practice. I'd stand on the putting green for ages, but I would just please if you could. And even if you're at home, obviously here in England the weather's getting awful now, you're getting cold, but even in your living room, if you've got the space for 6 feet, if you've got a ball and then about 1 foot, 2 foot out, you can create a little barrier. It might be, 2 mugs that you're going through. It might be 2 bookends. You can put T-pegs on the other side, 2 golf balls that a golf ball can fit through, and depending on your skill level, you can bring those 2 items closer together or make them wider for the ball to pass. But the better that you get aligning at your intended start line and knocking it through there, the more success you'll have on these putts. And that's when you watch the pros on TV and you see that line just really gorgeously just rolling end over end. It looks really pretty. It's not wobbling all over the show.
Yeah,
that's because they've managed to marry that face up with that target line and get it rolling there. So putting short, if you can do that, you'll definitely knock some strokes off.
100%. And as you say, they're coming into winter and you might not get a huge amount of chance to practice. There's no excuse for putting. You don't need to swing high and knock lampshades off. You can just roll the ball around the house and into objects through some gates, through some training aids. I like it.
Exactly.
We're moving further away from the hole. We're putting long.
Oof.
All right. So, average 3-putt percentage. This one amazes me, and I think this will amaze listeners. Okay, 3-putt percentage for the 20 handicapper is 13%. That's costing a few shots, isn't it?
Yes, quite. Yeah.
And then for the 0 handicapper, drops all the way down to 3%. So the 0 handicapper is saving a lot of shots there. Or maybe not saving shots, but they're not costing themselves shots.
Yeah, and when I was thinking about this and how will we do it, I did a video with Luke Donald, I think it was 2 years ago. And when I spoke to him about he had that streak that we talked about on the pod a couple of weeks ago. I think it was 421 holes without a 3-putt. I'm going to Google that now. But I said to him, you must have just holed loads of 10-footers, real testing putts. And he was like, nope, all down to my pace control.
Yeah.
And you go, and he said, well, think about it. If I've got a long putt, I'm not hitting every iron to 10 foot. If I've got a longer hole and I'm hitting it to 50 foot, I've got to make sure that first putt is within that 3-foot distance, because 98% of scratch golfers are holing those. So I was like, yeah, never thought of it as that. So this is where you go, how does that work? What are the issues that we're struggling with?
Why do we lose that distance control? Why do we lose that pace control? And I think if we do go back to the Dukes last week, we don't want to sit here saying they were playing terribly. By the way, they definitely didn't.
No,
but if we're just looking at some mistakes,
it was
the pace.
It was
of
the same. It was
distance.
good because we did the Texas Scramble.
Yeah.
So it was the same scenario repeated
exactly
8 times or 4 times and 4 times, and you just made the same mistake.
You've got to watch it happen.
Yeah. So yeah, they definitely weren't terrible, and you'll see that from the scoring that comes through. But on the longer
pace
putts,
control,
it was 449 holes it came to.
Good, that
That's good class. But he said to me, and this is where I think people struggle with. Firstly, the strike.
Yes.
When I've said that to lessons in the past, how do you strike your putter? Sort of looked at me with 2 heads.
Yeah.
Do you mean because you wouldn't fat it?
I've seen it.
I've seen it done.
Yeah,
I've done it myself. I caught the ground a little bit before, but generally you think, I get the ball rolling. I don't top it. I don't, thin it. It's generally a pretty easy strike thing, isn't it? But if it's toe or heel aggressively, that's going to limit how far that ball rolls. So again, that drill with just literally 2 T-pegs that create a gate that your putter has to pass through, you're just giving yourself a barrier. And if the gates are either side of the toe and the heel, and the ball is aligned to the middle of the putter, if it's swinging through the middle there, you're catching the middle.
Yep.
If you then drag, let's say, the toe towards the ball, not only will you hit the toe on the ball, but you'll hit the heel T-peg.
You get that feedback.
Yeah, so you just got to learn to get it going through that on that nice little arc and see that you're getting the strike. And also, do Do you hit down on it too much? Do you hit up on it too much? Just a little mirror drill, making sure that your eyes are somewhere above the golf ball and seeing, where's that ball position? Is it too far forwards? Is it too far back? Ideally, with a putter, I would advocate having it just in front of centre.
Yeah.
One ball in front of centre, so as it meets it, it's on a pretty neutral angle of attack. You'd maybe want to be coming up 2 or 3 degrees, and then you're going to get that nice strike on it. But just that little drill will solve that one. Then the other thing that I think can really, and this resonated massively with me when Luke Donald said this to me, was like how people look when they're stroking making the swing with the putter.
Yes.
Even short ones, this as well. But you'll sort of see, when you see a better player with longer putts, it looks like it's just this lovely flow, doesn't it? Neither, the backswing to the hit to the follow through look massively different.
Yeah.
You couldn't go, oh wow, that was at 5 miles an hour going back, and then it was at 20 miles an hour coming in.
There's more of the further people get away, it becomes more of a hit.
Yeah.
So often it starts going from, even if they're quite a good putter from close, they might be comfortable rolling the ball. All of a sudden there's a fast hit, and it's amazing how many people I'll say to them in lessons, how do we intend to hit this further? We've just moved to 30 feet. We've just gone from 10 feet to 30. How are we going to hit it further? And we're just going to swing the putter faster, and we're going to try and hit it harder. Now, what I would say I work at so often with people is swing length with some form of little bit of audio that's going to help them just find a rhythm. Because we can all have it. We can all do TikTok, or we can all think about an audio feeling. We don't register as people in our brains speed. You tell me to move a putter at 10 mile per hour, I'll look at you like you got 2 heads. Don't know what you're talking about. Won't be able to do it. You give me a little bit of audio, along with 2 maybe barriers, 2 markers on the floor, which is going to give me my stroke length, how far I need to travel, and say to me, can you just move your putter from A to B in time with that audio?
Yeah.
Within a few seconds I can do it. You could turn the audio off, and I would probably still be able to do it.
Yeah, 100%. And everyone will have their own flow as well,
Depends on your tempo, yeah, of course it does. But if we then say, okay, from 30 feet, your swing length needs to be this. From 6 feet, it needs to be much shorter. You will be moving quicker. Yeah. But you're not registering your speed. You're keeping that tempo nice and smooth. You're keeping the tempo the same and consistent.
Yeah, 100%. And what Luke described it to me as, and when he said it, I was like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. He said, imagine you're going to hang a picture at home. You get a nail, and you get your hammer. He said, how would you hammer a nail into the wall? And I was like, well, you just sort of like, you'd take it back and you'd pop it in, take it back and pop it in. And he was like, there's not a real big mix of like slow to fast. Like yes, there's a little bit of a hit and almost like a deceleration as the hammer hits the nail, it stops, and you wouldn't try and like hit the hammer then push the head of the hammer through the wall. Yeah. Which is what I see a lot of putters do. They go like slow. Oh, I've then realised halfway through I'm not going to do it, and then try and accelerate in the after stroke. So I think if you could just sort of think of it like that, and as Thomas said as well, that sort of flow of it, if it was like, right, okay, imagine like, how was I going to hammer this golf ball to that 6 foot target? Well, I'd be, well, how am I going to make it go, 20 feet? And you get going. And the other thing I had one of the students doing as well, I think this is like the best thing you can do for your long distance putting. Game over here we have called bowls in the UK.
Crown green.
Yeah, it's like a massive flat putting green. There's slight undulations in it. You'd roll, you get these sort of black golf balls that have a bias on each side, like weighted to one side or the other. Someone throws out the jack, which would be like a smaller ball, normally white, say 50 feet away. And then the player would roll the ball, they're probably 2 pounds in weight or something like that.
Yeah, probably.
Something like that. And you roll this ball, if you were doing that, and you can do this with a golf ball, like imagine if you were going to roll the golf ball out of your hand to the fringe of the putter that was 30 feet away. You wouldn't stand there and just launch it. You'd know how to roll it because instinctively your eyes are looking at the fringe. They tell you how far that is. That feeds that information back to your arm and you go, there we go, rolled it. You'd be somewhere in the vicinity, wouldn't you, to start off
with?
Most
of the time, yeah.
So
I think just to go on, the example you used there was a lot of the time people accelerating through the ball and maybe make a short stroke and then try and really force it. I think just reversing back to those short putts for a second, the amount of times I will see a very long backstroke and then the need to bail out and die and decel, and that's where your bad strikes come in. That's where you probably see putts fatted in reality.
That's why you hit your thumb with the hammer.
Hit your thumb with the hammer, and all of a sudden your club face is all over the place. So you don't start it online. Your pace control is poor, and I think that's where we get people scared of the 3-footers.
Yeah, because
the putter comes all the way back past the right foot, almost up to the knee, and then it needs to just die, and we don't know how to stop. So you got to make sure that swing length and that tempo is going to suit the putt that you're trying to hit.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And again, that's going to change on the pace of. There's no set formula. If you go and play golf today, greenkeepers have just been out eyeing the greens.
Yeah.
Go and play in 3 days, a little bit longer. It's rained. You've got to go and calibrate yourself.
Yeah.
Again. It's not just a case of saying, "Oh, that my 3-foot putter swing hits the ball this distance, and it's going to be like that forever." We've got to practice these things, but. Anything else on long putts, Matt?
No, I think that, and like I say, if you can go and, like as any golfer, if we could go and practice those a little bit more as well, and just really work, especially on those short ones, you're going to see shots coming off your score. Chipping, Tom, how?
Okay, chipping. You want to read these stats out because you wrote these ones out, and
you can't
I
read.
Don't quite know the formation of those ones. Read your stats out for me there.
Okay, so. Under 25 yards, Tom.
Yep.
Up and down percentage for a 20 handicapper is 41%.
Mm-hmm.
For a 0 handicapper, they are getting up and down 63% of the time. So 22% difference. Again, a big difference as we're going through it.
I may be wrong here though, but I think that any average golfer watching and listening to this would have expected that to be higher for a scratch golfer as well. Yeah, I think people's expectations are quite high on this up and down. They maybe want too much from themselves, but 63% from within 25 yards, it's not easy, is it? I think that shows it's not easy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think we do probably overestimate. I'd be interested to see what the PGA Tour average is for that as well, if you can dig that.
I'll have a look.
But I think there's a couple of reasons why this is happening, why we're only getting up and down 41%, and one other stat that I've got in a second will help corroborate that. But I think firstly, understanding the lie. I think a lot of the times, and I'm guilty of this sometimes as well, we see a chip shot as a chip shot.
Yeah.
And okay, I am now chipping. That means the ball does X. It pops out, it either stops or runs a little bit. But I think the first thing that we need to do, and this is this goes with time spent playing the game, time spent practicing. It's not a sort of you need to do X and it is a guarantee, but just understanding the lie. And whilst we were up in St Andrews as well, we filmed another tour tiers with a chap called Fraser Moore, who's won 25 times across the world, plays a bit of challenge tour, plays the mini tours. And one thing he said to us, and even Laurie Cantor said this to me when we were at the Belfry with him a few years ago, said the most difficult thing from playing on tour week to week is adapting to the different circumstances and the different lies you get, especially around the green. Now, when we're faced with chip shots, sometimes we can be a little bit one size fits all. And how the ball will react off a tight turf, fringe, versus a fluffy fairway, versus sat in the first cut, versus sat in the, the long rough, versus sat up in the long rough. The ball's going to come out and do very different things. So I think it is, and this is, like I said, you'll probably learn more and more of this as your time goes on, experiencing these shots. And there's nothing better like I'm guilty of this sometimes. When you go and practice, you sort of roll the ball into the best lie it can possibly. Oh, look at that. Oh, just get it on that lovely tee peg there. Oh, I hit a good chip. You generally won't get many of those lies out on the golf course.
The best thing I have ever done to learn chipping and pitching was when we were juniors and we used to play a game called Tough Lies or Difficult Lies, whatever you want to say. Yeah. And it was 4 of us walk in the bunker, your turn to pick, you stamp on your ball in the sand, everyone's got to play from there.
Yeah.
Up and down out of the greenkeeper's flower bed. Don't go and do that. Don't advocate it. But it was anywhere behind a tree, trying to get it right against a root. Everything.
You're just experiencing different. We just used to drop it, so it's like, right, okay, no placing. So you got to drop it back at in those days. Was it a shoulder high?
Shoulder high,
wasn't it? Yeah, Forget
Yeah.
good old days.
Now
It's the knee
knees.
drop. But literally, if you just took a ball in your hand, just sort of threw it into the line from waist height, if you're around that chipping green and going, okay, right, bang, throw that into that rough. What does that? Oh, it's sat down that time, because that's going to be a very different shot between, you know, the one that's sat 3 feet away on the fringe, sitting, you know, beautifully, because you're going to get more interaction between the ball and the club. So the spin rate's going to be different. The launch angle is going to be different. So then when it lands on the green, it's either going to stop quickly or run quickly. It's going to come out flatter, higher, softer, faster.
And to make this sound really simple, if somebody was to say now, well, okay, I'm going to go and practice chipping this afternoon, what changes between those? The simple answer really is, as the rough gets a little bit thicker, you're more likely to need a bit more loft, and you're more likely to need to be steeper.
Yeah.
So
and
if you start going
run more, spin
runs
less.
more, you'll see the ball react different. But if you go and change your loft and angle of attack when you're trying to get in deeper rough, and when you're in the shallow, you can be a little bit shallower when you're in the fairway, and you can sort of brush it with an 8-iron a bit more.
I love you just hit the nail on the head there.
All of a sudden, we start to do different things.
Yeah, Dad did a video, ironically, up at the Dukes with us a couple of months ago, and he sort of said he'll give his amateurs 2 things to think about when they get to a lie around the green. Do I brush it or do I crush it? That meaning, is this lie nice enough for me to just brush it off, not have any real interaction, or have, you know, any grass sort of harness the golf club and take power away from it? Or do I need to crush it out of this lie? Do I need to get steep? So if you could simply think of that, brush or crush, and understand the lie, and just practice a little bit more out of different lies, you become a better chipper. The other one is, you know, once we maybe understand that, we then choose the wrong club and the wrong shot for that. And interestingly enough, a 20 handicapper success rate with a lob wedge, which we generally see first club out of the bag, it's chipping right, it's my most lofted club, 18%.
I was going to say, I feel like that's a low number. It's a low number.
A 9-iron goes to 34%,
okay,
so nearly double. And then a putter goes to 66%.
There's your answer.
So it's a case of, you know, picking the right club for it. And it might be that you love chipping with lob wedge, but as I was going through all the stats, lob wedge came out really low on everything, because they are a specialist club. They require, you know, the right amount of hit, the right amount of control, and you've got to get them spot on. Otherwise, you really get hampered for what you're trying to achieve with it. So I think learning to sort of chip with different clubs and saying, okay, and I think what stands out to me there with that putter being the top one, and then as we go in and add in more loft, the less loft you have in and the more chance you've got of getting it running. You don't have to fly it as far, so the swing doesn't need to be as big. So your strike doesn't have to be as accurate, and you can get away with a little bit more. So if you are over here in the UK, you know, the ability for us to play, you know, the bump and run style shot is a lot more frequent than maybe some areas. And I'd advocate the sooner you can get that ball running on the green like a putter, you're taking out a lot of mishaps from it. Yeah,
and the reality is, if you're coming in fairly shallow and you're trying to brush the bump and run 9-iron and you catch it a tiny bit heavy, that ball still moves forward.
Yeah.
If you catch it heavy with the blade of that lob wedge, it goes a foot.
Yeah.
And you got the same shot in your hand, and we know what it's like then. The next one gets much more difficult. And if you're not clever enough to then make the decision to put the lob wedge back in your bag and go and get the 9-iron, and you're standing there with the lob wedge again, you probably blade it because you overcorrect it, and it's just so much more problematic to your game and your score.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, you have to practice with the lob wedge, and you have to learn that skill set, and that'd be that time spent around the chipping green in and amongst those different lies. But if you could, you know, get it going along the ground quicker, you know, it might not seem like the cool shot or the fancy one or the sexy one, but, you know, as the old saying goes, you know, a bad putt beats a good chip sort of thing. You know, that's not the right saying, is it?
That's right.
Yeah. A bad putt beats a bad chip.
Yeah, definitely beats a bad chip.
Yeah.
Often beats a good chip.
Yeah, so, you know, I would just look at that. So if you are, you know, looking at it thinking, right, well, my chipping's not up to it, go and practice out of some different lies around the chipping green, and then also start to look at, okay, well, what's my most effective club here? Just because, you know, we're chipping doesn't mean we need loads of loft.
Just before we move on, chipping and pitching, we've managed to get some stats. PGA Tour within 50 yards rather than 25.
Mm-hmm.
But we got PGA Tour 64%, scratch golfer 55%. So within 25 yards for a scratch golfer, it was 63.
Yeah.
And then drops to 55. But yeah, 64% for your Tour Pro.
Wow.
Not an easy game.
Wow.
Okay, so naturally moves us on. We're talking about people ultimately trying to pitch from next to the green with a lob wedge there. But as we move into pitching, what are we thinking? So we got from 50 to 75 yards.
Yeah.
Okay. Your 20 handicapper, we'll put it within a proximity of 43 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And your scratch golfer within 24 feet.
Do you know what shocked me? That green in regulation stat next to those as well.
49%.
49% of shots from 50 to 75 yards only hit the green, so half the time from that distance. And that's
again,
from different lies as well, fairway, long rough, not including bunkers there, but it's
a lot of greens missed, isn't it?
It's almost 50% nearly, isn't it? Well, it's over it's and again, it rang true a few times last week. It was like, oh right, I was thinking, great, we're in the kill zone here, we've got 50 to 75 yards, I'm expecting it, I was saying to them, right, and this, maybe from my sort of naive look on it, I was like, just get it to 25 foot, guys.
That's
a scratch
decent goal for that, isn't it?
As where, just get it to 50 foot would have been like a better shout.
Yeah.
Don't have to be special, and then you're like, okay, and that might mean looking at, are you going over the bunker that you're not comfortable with, or do you just play 5 foot left of the flag, which means you take out the bunker and you still hit it to 30 foot instead of thinking, oh, I've got to go over this bunker, please don't I've duffed it in there again, and actually 30 foot right of the flag is still a good shot instead of trying to take on that high caliber shot.
Yeah, if we go back to, again, I think 3-4 podcasts ago, you used the analogy of the picnic blanket on the green, and that's going to put you within decent putting distance. But if you've got to try and pitch it, when you're 50 yards away, you've got laser eye to the flag, haven't you? Everybody does. Yeah. Everyone goes, well, I'm close, I've got to go for the flag. If that's tucked just in the back corner of the green with difficult undulations around it, your ball might roll off the back because it drops off behind it, and all of a sudden you're challenged with that difficult chip shot or another pitch shot, then yeah, you're making a decision mistake really, as opposed to a technique mistake there.
Yeah, huge. What's a good shot for my handicap versus what's a tour shot looking
expectation like? But talk me through technique mistakes.
Yeah, just as we move as well on to 75 to 100 yards, and it might not be that pitching goes to 100 yards for some players, but from those 56 feet and 38% of greens are hit from the 20 handicapper, 27 feet, so only a 3 foot increase, and 73% of greens are hit for the 0 handicap, so a loss of 4% in terms of greens hit, and they actually only lose 3 feet as opposed to, we can see, big disparities, 11%.
And that shows where you scratch handicappers are good, doesn't it? It shows where they dial themselves in from.
Yeah, we're not all going to be, and we're not playing Bryson, PGA Tour length golf courses. We've got to be smashing it, for your everyday club golfer, weekend golfer. This is where you're going to reap your rewards. Yeah. But I think one big thing that everyone could do, and if you watched in the Reds, I would like to say that my pitching has probably been something that looks like it's improved. I'm hitting, I used to complain about my wedges for quite a period until I've done my wedge chart. I've actually simplified how many wedges I have in my bag, but all I simply do now, and this is where, speaking to a lot of amateurs, if I said, how far does your 56 degree go? Around 80, maybe 90, 100 on a good one. You go, okay, that's 20 yards difference there. Now, we're not expecting you to be dialed in, but what I would say, if you could go and get an idea of, let's say your sand wedge, let's call it, that was your one club that from 75 yards to 40 yards, you're going to just generally try and pitch with that. How far does it go if you hit it, on a good one, just to get the average of your good ones? And how far does it go when you hit a half swing?
Yeah.
Because let's say that you've got it going 75 and then you've got it going 40. At least you've got 2 yardages to start with that you can go, okay, well, my full swing up to my shoulders goes 75. My half swing when I feel that my hands are level with my belt line. You could use a clock system. I think there's too many too many numbers in that for the higher handicappers. I simply use relative to where my hands are level to my belt line, my chest line, and my shoulder line. I've got 3 things there, and they're generally about 15 yards apart. Gets a little bit longer as you go up to the top. But with 3 wedges, I've got 9 distances that I can go, right, okay, well, if it's 50, I use this one. If it's 70, I use that one. If it's 80, I use that one. If I need to get it going in a little bit lower and running more, my pitching wedge goes 60, but has a bit more run out than my lob wedge goes 70 and stops dead.
Yeah.
So just having, getting a baseline with at least 1 wedge and just trying to get 2 points to start off, like I say, I'd probably recommend going down the route of belt, chest, shoulders is like a good. It's not going right. Okay, well, how far does it go at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12? There's a lot going on, and you might not feel the differences between each one there. But if you can do that, you can go belt to belt, chest to chest, shoulder to shoulder, and you'll get a rough idea. Because I think a bit like the putting, when we see distance, we see, this is where I would say as well, the next thing is that we adopt a full setup as if we were going to hit a 7-iron, swing it all the way up to the top, and then try and stop on the way down going, well, I know subconsciously that's going to go too far, so I'll just try and take a bit off.
Yeah.
Leads to the duff, leads to the thin, leads to the inconsistent strike. So
it's the same conversation on tempo as putting is, isn't it? So the conversation we had before, the exact same thing applies.
Yeah. Just get a proper setup, and I would advocate going to see a PGA pro and getting someone who's got a launch monitor and saying, right, okay, well, this is how you stand to a pitch, because it's a little bit more that we get our body set in a position, and then we're just moving the arms. We're already preset with weight and how the shoulders are. We move the arms to those points, and we turn and we match those up. And if you can just get a couple, like say 2 distances to start off with, I reckon you would start to see 1 or 2 greens hit around more with those wedges instead of, oh God, I've done it again.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, a huge technical change.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But I would definitely, if everyone, if every lesson I ever taught now walked into me and went, oh, I've got a wedge chart, I'm off 20, but I know that my sand wedge goes X and Y for chest and shoulders, I'd be like, oh, we are on the right path. We are running here.
Thinking about the right things.
Yeah, we can see that you're going to come down here. Yeah. So yeah, get going with those.
We're moving on to bunkers. Are you happy with pitching?
Yeah, I'm happy. Yeah, definitely. Just if you could do those 2 things, I think you're onto the right track there.
One more thing to add to pitching: it's not your job to lift the ball in the air. How many people do you see trying to hit the ball high for a pitch shot? Yeah,
like I say, with a good setup, you preset impact. That's why we have more weight on our left side, because we've not got the ability to shift. We might have our hips ever so slightly open because we're not making the big rotational movement. So set the body, swing pivot the body around, let the arms do the swing, sort of the distance control, the loft in your hand, and the preset is going to get the ball going
for you. Yeah. Definitely. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're into a spot at bottom, Matt. We're in the bunker.
Oh, yay.
So we've made it into the bunker, and I love blading a bunker shot straight into the back edge.
I know you do.
I'm not bad out of bunkers. I normally fat them out. Make sure they're out. But so we've got up and down percentage for a 20 handicapper is 15%. And then for a 0 handicap, it looks like we've had a little rub out mark, but I'm guessing that was 37%.
37%.
Okay. I would have been surprised if it was 87%.
Yeah, like you are a player.
So 37%, 15%. That 15% could be higher, couldn't it? What do you think the reason is there?
First thing, and I ask this to so many people: when do you practice bunkers?
When I go in them.
Yeah, when I get in on the course. So it's like, right, okay, so your time to get out of this bunker is you figuring it out for the first time. We're all guilty of it. We were fortunate at Warrington, we had a practice ground that is some walk away. There was a bunker on there, so I would go and spend time in it when I hit balls up there. But then we were lucky that we got a chipping green put in by the clubhouse, and it's got a bunker there, so it was like, if you looked at sort of when I was a member of from 16 to 21, before the chipping green went in, to today, my bunker practice time probably went up because there was something there for me to go and do it. So it is, you know, if you haven't got time to do it, if you're ever playing like a social round or a casual round and you've got the ability to just say, I'm going to hit, you know, an extra bunker shot, or there is a local place that you play at, or the range that you go to has got one, that a short game area, you know, don't shy away from throwing some balls in and actually getting some time to practice it, like, because as we can see, 15%, it's a killer.
Yep.
And
I was just going to say, I've just put a sort of practice plan out as well to a lot of people I teach, sort of just you going, you know, when we're coming into the winter, don't just let your clubs be packed away in the garage. And one of the big benefits at the minute is golf courses.
Throw them in a bunker.
But golf courses are going to get quieter.
Yeah.
Be the person who goes, well, I'm going to go and practice on the quiet golf course. And as long as you're not tearing the course up, throwing all the sand out the bunker, you're fine to go and throw 5 balls and you're not holding people up and play a few shots out on the course.
Practice on the golf course.
Of course you can. Get yourself playing around, throw a couple of balls in and go from there. If you haven't got the facilities, your golf club, most golf clubs are not going to mind as long as you're not holding people up and you're out there.
Don't condone 5, Thomas. Even if it's if you said to yourself you were playing 9 holes on your own socially and you went, right, okay, I'm going to work on my bunker play today, so I'll drive off, hit into the green. If I did hit onto the green, I'm going to put it into the bunker, wedge it back out. Yeah. You know, just 1 bunker per hole. It's nine bunker shots that you normally wouldn't hit. Yeah. And, you know, you can do it that way. But I think once we sort of get over the hurdle of practicing them, I think it's then the 2 issues that I would see, you know, a good setup for it. A lot of people sit behind it thinking there's a lip in front of me, so we would see the sternum sat behind the golf ball, a bit like you said with pitching. I'm trying to help it up. Low point gets too far behind the golf ball. You either bury the club in the sand near your back foot and it stays there, or you come out early, you raise up, you're either meeting the leading edge with the equator or the top of the golf ball, thus the thin. So we can't emphasize enough that sternum needs to be on top of the golf ball, in front of it, or in front of it, or mainly in front of it. You've got to be that side. And then as we go through, you know, we're not trying to hit like too much down into it, like I see too many people trying to dig it out. Again, like we did go and check these out on the main channel. I spent this morning with Luke Donald, and again, an exquisite bunker player. We're trying to take Sam. We're just trying to let the ball the club slide under the ball. We're just trying to take a little divot. We're not trying to, you know, dig a tunnel down like 6 feet into the structure of the bunker.
If you think about it, sand's very movable. When we're in it, and especially if it's dry. So if you are very, very steep, your club's going to just keep going. That ball's not going to know anything about it.
Yeah, it goes down too much.
They're the mistakes you see people sort of chopping and hacking.
Yeah, hitting down too much, and then, as opposed to what he said to me, was think of like a window wiper as you're going through. Your hands are the point where the wiper's connected to your car. The club head's the tip of the wiper. It just sort of passes by, doesn't it? The tip's always in front of the where the hands would be, and you're just letting it glide through instead of like bang down in. You just got to try and feel that club, you know, carry on into the follow through, was what I always used to say to my students, like, right, I want to see you take a bit of sand, but I want to see you up in that full follow through instead of someone who looks like they're putting a pickaxe down into the sand.
One of the benefits of practicing in bunkers as well is you can do it without a ball and get so much feedback from the divot out of the sand, whether you dug down and you sort of see that smooth slide and material from the leading edge, don't you? Yeah. Or you get that nice splash of the sand out because you've been a little bit more shallow. And I always describe it as like the matchbox, and I'm sure you've heard or seen the matchbox drill before. And if you were to draw a little rectangle size of a matchbox in the sand using a lime stick, use your finger, whatever, and what you're trying to do is sort of clear that matchbox out. Now, if your club's the match, if you were to bury that into the matchbox, you snap the match, you don't light it. Yeah, you just and if you don't touch the sand, at all, you don't strike the match. Yeah. So we're trying to get that strike, that swipe across the sand, and you could during lessons, I'll draw 10 matchboxes out and say, just work your way down there. Work your way down there. Don't hit a ball. Work your way down the matchboxes and just try and strike them. And all of a sudden, you see people thinking about it and go, okay, I can see where my club's entering. I can see where it's digging. And then all of a sudden, you put a ball in the last one. Ball pops up. It's like magic.
Done, yeah. And then I think the final thing is just commitment. Yeah. The amount of people that go like again, long to
weak,
Yeah, as well. Right, come on, let's get through. Just understand that it's going to go. And I think with everything that we've said about all this, if you practice it a bit more and understand what it is you're meant to do, that commitment comes through, doesn't it? If you line that ball up better when you put in, oh yeah, I know how to do this, right, I'm going to do it right, okay. I'm committed to lining that up, okay.
Go in with a plan.
Yeah, that chip in action, right, I'm going to read the line instead of just saying, oh, well, chip in, instead of thinking, right, this is long, rough, I know I've got to be a bit more aggressive with this lob wedge, I know it's going to come out a bit softer, but I can commit to this now. And I think, like, if we can just spend that little bit more time, 5, 10, an hour, 15, 20, whatever it is that you've got, to spend on your short game, you'll reap the benefits. You will massively reap the benefits, because even as we did the video at the Dukes, a couple of holes, there was myself, won't spoil the video, but there's myself as one team captain and one of the other pros as a team captain. As we were coming down the stretch, we got a little bit more involved and was like, right, this is what's going to happen here. You've got this shot, and it was more on the short game shots, and you could see more success and everyone like growing, and everyone's mood started, yeah, come on, knock it. And it was, just that commitment, and right, we know what's going to happen now, and we saw that change. But yeah, I think some good stuff there. And
I've got one more thing on bunkers. Sorry, Matt.
Go on then.
I think we have a problem with what people perceive as opening the club faces. And I think if we sort of explain to people that we can't just set up square to the target and then open the club to the point where it's aiming 20 yards right to the target, and we're showing the hosel of the club to the golf ball.
Yeah, unless you released it different.
And it's amazing how many times I see it and how quick of a change it is, because I'll go down to the bunker, I'll say, throw a couple of balls and say, right, what would you normally do? Most of the time, the first thing people say is, so I open the club face, because that's quite a common bit of knowledge, what I've been told.
Mm-hmm.
So club face is open, blades aiming 30 yards right.
Yeah.
And you've got to move that body around. You've got to make sure your club face is aiming, the leading edge of your club's aiming towards the target, because then they think they're thinning it into the bank. And the reality is they either hosel it because they've exposed the hosel, or the action you've just made, they've got to really flick and turn that leading edge towards the target.
Yeah, you got to release it differently.
You scoop the sand out and you fat it and thin it, and all sorts of things go wrong. So if you're opening your club face, and you don't need to open it by 40 degrees, by the way, because I see people doing that a lot as well. It can open by just a small amount.
If you've got a lob wedge,
just getting the leading edge open a touch, but then make sure you're repositioning your body's alignment when your feet are likely to be aiming left to target.
Yeah.
Your club face needs to be aiming towards where you're trying to hit the ball. Sounds basic, but it's amazing how often I see it.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, agree with that, definitely. So put all those into play. I think if you were to even just say to yourself, right, what am I going to do over the next 2 weeks, and pick one of those areas, you'd probably see, a little bit of an improvement in your scores running to the end of the season now. So try and maybe put a plan into place. I think especially for us here in England, those putting ones at home can still be worked on. The chipping and putting maybe not so much if the weather's not great, but if you have got a short game area, learn to fall in love with it and go and see your scores drop via, that little bit more practice you put in. Right, Tom, let's fire through. We've got a couple of would you rathers before we get into a few questions to top us off. Have you got any, or do you want me to start?
Go on, you start us.
Right. Would you rather have a round at Augusta or £100,000 in cash?
This is close to the conversation we had a couple of weeks ago about, what was it, 30 grand to play Augusta, we said. I've got to take the 100 grand.
Would you?
Yeah.
I thought about this last night, because if you think about it, right, well, what's a mortgage each month? Let's say £1,000. So each year, 1,200. It's only 10 years mortgage. So, you could work, you're going to pay a mortgage regardless, so...
I'm taking the 100 grand.
I'm taking Augusta.
The 100 grand, you could either go and play a lot of other golf courses.
Yeah, but you're not going to play Augusta though, are you?
No, but you could play a lot of other golf courses, or you go and pay that off your mortgage and you'll retire 10 years earlier, play where you want.
Yeah, you could sit at home in your house mortgage free and watch Augusta, but your mate's going to knock on. Right, Tom, do you want to watch the Masters? Yeah, good, yeah, sound. do you want me to tell you what I did down the first when I played there? And you go, yeah. Do you want me to tell you about how I paid my mortgage off? I really don't care. So anyway, what happened? I was on the first tee and I hit a little bit of a draw. I actually missed the bunkers. And you go, right, did you? Do you want me to tell you about the compound rate I got from NatWest? Again, bore off. Then from a second shot, I hit this. I caught it a little bit heavy, right? And you'll go, what did you do on Amen Corner? Whoa.
Won't be listening.
Yeah, you will.
I won't be listening. 100 grand for me, please.
Tied on that one. Not tied, sorry.
I think you're mad.
I don't think I am. I think
you're either mad or YouTube channel's doing way better than I think, and I want to raise.
No, but I think a lot of people would take Augusta. It's a money can't buy experience, unless you're like a billionaire who's got the connections in America. And I'm not getting invited to join anytime soon, am I?
So you're paying £25,000 an hour for being out there.
Right.
You're giving £100,000 up. You're thinking it from a point of view if you don't have the £100,000 at the minute anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But it still counts as losing 100 grand.
So it doesn't, because I've not got it anyway. So I've not got it to lose.
No.
But if someone said, okay, well, how much would it? But it's a lifetime of telling someone that you got to play Augusta. Like, everyone's paying a mortgage.
You're not winning on that one. Sorry, You're not beating me. You're not going to change my mind.
Okay.
You've got no chance.
I win.
Okay, I'm going to go with, you've got a lifetime unlimited amount of Pro V1s.
Yeah.
Or one round at an open venue of your choice.
What, the day after the Open's played?
Yeah, if you want.
Okay. I'll take the round. Not bothered about Pro Vs.
Not a Pro V player.
Yeah, sign with Mizuno, so yeah, stick your Pro Vs.
Okay.
No, I just see, that's different. Like I'm not like bothered about golf balls, and I'd rather have that experience of saying played Portrush the Monday afterwards.
Yeah.
Sunday flags, shot a 92. In fact, I did it at Troon and shot an 83, I think it was. 11 over, so 70. Yeah, shot an 83. Don't need no Pro V1 for that.
No, I'm with you on that one. I'm not buying Pro Vs, or I'm not taking the Pro Vs, I should say. I suppose if, again, looking from a standpoint, if somebody was to say, well, I'm currently spending £500 a year on Pro Vs, it's going to cost me a lot of money over my lifetime. It's a big outgoing. Then they might choose it, but no, it's an open venue for me.
Open venue all day, innit?
That on a Monday is good fun.
I'm hoping Portrush happens next year.
All right, we're on we halved that one.
Fingers crossed. Right, this one's going to put the cat amongst the pigeons, Thomas. Would you rather have 10 PGA Tour wins, or would you like to have £100 million contract with Liv?
Can I pick the event to win? So I've won a Grand Slam?
No, because that's not a PGA Tour, is it?
Well,
so 10 of them, one's the Players, and then 10 of the, the Sanders Farm, the John Deere.
Now you've made it difficult.
I don't know the others. The Costco Invitational. So 10 wins over, let's call it, 4 years.
Okay.
Or £100 million contract that spans 4 years to play on Liv.
I'm going to go with the one I think you're not going for. I'm taking the $100 million deal.
Are you? Ooh.
Initially, I thought, give me the 10 PGA Tour wins. I'm a golfer. I want to win events.
What do they equate to in money?
In reality, not 100 mil on the ones you've just said.
And think if you go and play on Liv, you get the £4 million prize pot.
I'd
take the 10 tour wins.
Would you?
Legacy, baby. Have you won the Players? No.
So you go and win 10 PGA Tour events over the next 4 years, starting from now.
Yeah.
How big's your legacy in 80 years?
Massive.
100 years?
Massive.
So
can you tell me a 10-time winner now of the PGA Tour? Just reel off a 10-time winner.
No, I'm going with a different approach, okay?
Okay. Because I'm right.
You've just said that for the Augusta one, that
get
my
to play
mate to
Augusta.
come round and brag about Augusta.
Hey, guess what you get with your 10 PGA Tour wins when you win that Players? An invite to Augusta. Don't need your 100k, baby.
You can't go back. You can't mix them.
Oh, you see, the brains are here.
you go and win 10 PGA Tour wins so that you can, when you're, and okay, you've done well because you've won a few quid, but when you're 85 years old,
yeah,
you can say won 10 times on the PGA Tour.
Yeah,
and you're not taking the 100, God knows how much more money it's going to be, 100 million plus the rest.
Yeah, because I'm going to be a millionaire anyway. See?
Not that much. You're not going to have 100 million of them.
Not 100 mil, but, people are walking in a restaurant and they go, oh, my God. Right,
there's Matt Fryer.
There's Matt, PGA Tour 10-time winner.
No, I'm taking the live deal.
And then they go, who's that bloke there? I don't know. It's Caddy, I think.
Taking the live deal.
But, yeah,
That was a tough one,
But
that's a difficult one.
To get the 100 mil, you probably had to win that amount, haven't you?
Yeah. I think...
You think who the big deals on live have gone to? They're all, studs on the PGA Tour.
Where, that's a tough question, is if I could pick the 10 wins and you could choose
10 players,
then you probably go, okay, yeah, I'll take the PGA Tour wins if they're big enough.
How many did Scotty win this year? 6, was it?
6, I think.
Yeah. Might be wrong on that. I'll have to fact check. But yeah, he's a legend now, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah.
Currently.
It's an interesting one. Right. Let's get on to some questions now that we know I'm right on all those would you rathers. And if you have got any would you rathers, fire them into us at info@mattfrygolf.co.uk or follow us on our social media platforms, the Matt Fry Golf Podcast on Instagram, Facebook on the main one, and leave us a comment on YouTube.
I've got questions, Matt.
Go.
Okay, we've got Public Enemy ad on Instagram. For high handicap players, are you an advocate of the putt until you can't approach?
Well, 66%. Well, stats show it, don't they? 18% for the lob wedge, 66 for the putter. I would, if when it comes down to a scoring thing, yeah. If you're saying, well, I think the question, and like Nicholas used to say, didn't he? Don't hit a shot that you haven't practiced in tournament.
Yeah.
So if you're stood there with the lob wedge in hand going, oh, this should be a lob wedge, but I don't know. But you're thinking, well, can I hit a putter 10 foot right of it? Get the putter out and get it done. Whatever's going to give you the best opportunity for success, use that.
Yeah, that's fair. I think on that point there, actually, I've just thought how many people will go and play with the mates through the week and use the sand wedge and the lob wedge around the green. And then when they get into tournament condition, it's like, I'll use the putter because I should do. Well, you didn't do that with the lads of the weekend.
Yeah, practice
so
once that commitment and confidence comes into it.
Yeah. Okay, we've got Hermitage 10.
Hermitage.
What shots/lies mean we should play with the ball more out of our back foot?
Again, that sort of brush it, crush it advice that Dad has done in that video. Go and check that one out as well. If it's a nasty lie, we want to try and get a little bit steeper. But also, if you're trying to flight it, like I'll play a lob wedge sometimes towards the back of the stance because I'm trying to achieve a certain outcome. I'm going to, have more shaft lean, so that means there's less loft on the club, which means the ball's coming out lower. It's going to run a little bit more as we go through. So I think it's, if you're trying to dig it or crush it out of a certain lie, you're going to get a little bit steeper by putting it back in your stance. If you're trying to graze it a little bit more, brush it off the turf, you probably want to be more towards the front.
Yep. Let's see. Matt Edwards 553. I always tend to thin out of bunkers. Best advice to stop this, please help. I feel like we've ticked loads of these off.
Yeah, we've just, like I said, that don't lean back. Get that sternum covering the golf ball, get it in front, and then just strike the match, as Tom said. Strike the match.
Okay, we didn't cover this one. We did cover people maybe having too much choice or too little choice when it comes to wedges, but what is the ideal gap in degrees for wedges? I have a pitch and wedge 44, gap wedge 52, sandwich 56, and lob wedge 60. So he's gone for the 44, 52, 56, 60.
So he's got, what are we there? 8 degrees between the 44 and the 52.
8 degrees from wedge to gap wedge.
And then you've got 4 degrees on the others.
Yep.
So it almost says that you could put another one potentially in that 50. So you could have a 48.
Yeah.
44, 48. And that's the problem with nowadays with the way manufacturers have built clubs. The lofts have got stronger. So what used to be a 3-iron at 21 degrees, we're now generally seeing that around about 17 degrees. So we've lost a club there. So your pitching wedge that was 47 is now round about 44, which means we get to buy more wedges off the companies. But it depends. What I would say is that comes down to each individual, how many wedges you want. You might be stood there like you've got yourself there, a 44, 52, 56, 60, but actually you need more help at the other end of the bag. So having, you could go 44, you could then go 50, and then you could go 54, 60. So you widen that gap, but take what,
I would look at them numbers there and say, do you really need the 60? Have a look at your game and say, do I need the 60? And can you just take that 52, 56 and 60 and just nudge them all down 2 to 4 degrees, push them closer to the wedge?
44, 50, 58, which means then you get an extra hybrid up at the other end of the bag. So there's no sort of blanket, but what I would try and say is that you have regimented gaps. You can see that you've got 4 degrees, but then you've got an 8 degrees. So that'll be a club missing. You might hit a wedge, let's call it 120, and then that 52 only goes 100. So then what's going one, or let's say 90, you've then got that what would be 48 goes 150 or 110 or whatever it may be.
You got to know your gapping, find the gaps and fill in the gaps.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just go and get a fit in, like I say, because you could be adding a wedge in for no apparent reason when you've got the opportunity to get an extra club at the other end of the bag.
Be interesting to see how many people will, definitely now go for driver fittings and iron fittings and don't go near a wedge fitting.
Yeah.
Because wedge fittings are available in so many places now. It's definitely worth doing because they're not cheap anymore. At 170 a wedge, a lot of wedges now.
It's if you're adding that many in, it's a lot of space in the bag, isn't it? It means you're foregoing 4 golf clubs out of the 14. One's going to be a putter, 5, and then you've got your driver. There's 6 gone, so you've only got 8 other clubs.
Yeah.
So you're having 4 irons, and 4 other bits. So
there's a lot to think about.
Yeah, a lot of go and get gap tested.
One last one, Matt.
Yeah.
Will you do any videos at great places like Silloth or Southerness?
Yeah.
Miles away, but yeah.
We had planned to do Southerness recently, but the weather didn't help us. There was another one that I saw that was on the podcast channel that we've got as well, which was what type of golf ball will help short game.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, so what we've got to think is the more premium the golf ball, you're going to have that urethane cover, which means it's going to be a little bit more grippy. So it means you're going to generate more spin, so you'll have more control. Now, when we look at it and you go, okay, well, are you technically sound to generate the strike each time for that? Because when we're looking at, the better the golf ball, i.e. going up to that Pro V1 you mentioned earlier, versus would it be their sort of DT Solo type? Would be the sort of
about right.
Yeah, sort of 2 ends of the spectrum there. You've got 2 very different things. So, a softer golf ball in terms of the cover, the urethane, you'd still want that fast core from it is going to generate the correct conditions for spin, as well as something like at the other end, your distance golf ball doesn't have that urethane cover. It's not going to grip the club face as much, so you're not going to generate as much spin. So, but then when you're using that with your woods, you're not going to generate the distance off the tee that you may need because you're not getting the appropriate club head speed and launch characteristics to get the most out of that golf ball. So there is a trade-off. I would generally say is like blanket advice for the mid-level golfer, average golfer. Those Shrixon AD triple threes
I was just
really
thinking
good.
that before you said it.
There's the Wilson DX softs are generally pretty good and spinny, and as time's gone on, if you think back to our days growing up, it was a Top Flight XL2000 that felt like an actual pebble when you hit it. That's a million miles apart from where an AD33 is now, or even like a Strixon Distance. They're much better when you're around the green with those. So, but the one downside is softer the cover, the more they rip up.
Yeah.
So then you're spending more on those as well as you're going through. So there's
generally the more they cost, and the more they cost when you lose as well.
Yeah, there's trade-offs there. So yeah, I'd sort of try and aim for the best value at middle of the road to get the best of both worlds as you do it.
Yeah, and another thing is use the same golf ball. Don't just keep using the one you find. You might not feel a difference if you're average handicap, or to be fair, even if you're talking a lot of single-digit handicaps, you might not feel a huge performance distance when it comes to striking an iron from 180 yards. You mightn't feel that or see a difference, but you'll definitely feel and see it around the greens and on the greens. So while we're talking short game, don't go using the lake balls that are no longer round, and don't go and don't kind of use just what you found and play the first few holes with a Callaway Chrome Soft and then finish off with a Slazenger.
Yeah,
don't do it that way. You'll get inconsistencies and you'll wonder why you're not very good.
Running? Why are they not spinning?
These greens got faster in the last couple of hours.
Probably, yeah. Right, guys, good one there. Hopefully that's going to help you improve your short game a little bit more. Take some of those nuggets, go and practice those. As we say as well, do make sure you are following us. Leave us a review as well if you're listening to us on any audio platform. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave us a comment as well if you can on some guests that you would like to potentially see on the show. And we're going to try and get a few guests leading up towards Christmas. But thanks for listening, watching, and we will see you in the next one very soon.
We will. See you next week, Matt.